Hi guys, welcome back to the workshop and the next instalment in the Farmyard build. In the previous video you would have seen where we've got to. We've got the airframe basically done, covered, servos are in. The next task is getting the engine fitted and all the other associated parts just hanging on it to see where the CG sits, so we can figure out where the battery's got to go and the throttle servo. So we're going to crack on with that just now. Okay, so we've had our first little hiccup. This firewall was drilled probably years ago now when we first got this and started building it, and this mounting hole was slightly out, which I thought would be all right, but as it was going in, the screw has damaged the T-nut, the threads in the T-nut, so I've had to knock it out and run a drill through the hole just to open it up a little bit in the firewall, not the mount. And then when we come to fit the engine for the last time, we'll put our hand up the back side of it, get a new T-nut on and then tighten it down and hopefully get a bit of glue around it to hold it in place. We've done a quick check with the CG. We've got the battery sitting now just here in the cockpit floor, and it seems to be not too far out. CG is meant to be on the spar, which is just in front of the wing tube, just there, so it's not too bad. I don't know if you'll be able to hear, but it's piddling down with rain outside just now, so as soon as that stops we'll get it outside and fully check it. But it means that I can now, I'm happy that the battery's there, or I've got sufficient area placement of the battery. I can play about with it to get the CG right. We can carry on doing stuff. First thing I want to do is get the throttle linkage sorted out or figured out as to where that's going to run. So I've got to put together the bell crank kit, or make up a bell crank to go in here, which again, it's not the end of the world, but the bell crank from the previous one, yeah, it was accidentally broken. So this kit, which is a Tony Clark kit, is now missing a bell crank, so I've got to make one. So that'll take a little bit of time and figuring out, but that's what we're here to do. Ewan's away to go and make some lunch just now. You'll probably see it in videos to come, but he's picked up a new toy this morning from a local chap, a local friend of ours. It's going to be a little while away yet from getting it flying, because he's got to get his cap flying first and then this aeroplane. We've got to find somewhere to store it as well. It's not a small thing. Anyway, I digress. We'll get this finished. So I'm going to crack on with trying to figure out the throttle. Okay, so first thing on this front end is, I think I said already, we've got the T-nut issue in here, which we can resolve when we come to fit the engine fully. We now have a throttle linkage in here. Again, I don't know how well you'll be able to see. I'll show you here. So we've got a throttle linkage going into the carb, just like that. So on the servo end, we have to make sure that the adapter, connector, whatever they're called, is really close to the servo center point, so that it gets maximum resolution on the servo. We can reduce the endpoints to suit. We just need to make sure that it's going to match as best we can here, which is doable. We just need to think about it, that's all. So that's that. The next thing I need to do is look at where the tank tubing is going to come out. I think it's going to come out there. Again, I don't know how well you'll be able to see, just down here. And then we might be able to get the vents out the side here, so they're coming down to keep them away from the exhaust. I need to make a hole in the front. Again, I'm not exactly sure where yet, for this wire to pass through, and I'll probably extend that wire, to be honest, looking at the length of it. Yeah, I'll extend that wire, I think, because then we can get all the electrics further back, because that's for the kill, the ignition kill. Yeah, I wonder where we're going to put that through. Well, we'll figure it out. Right then, front end I'm more happy with now. everything's going to mount up neatly. We've got a hole for the throttle linkage to go through, 2 holes for the vents from the fuel tank, 1 hole for the access for the ignition kill wires to go through, and a fuel feed to come through, so it's more sort of as a crow flies to the carb. What we've got to do now is get, why is that on there?
Because I put it there.
We've got to get the rudder and elevators glued in. Once they're glued in, we're then going to mix up some epoxy to coat the front end to seal up all the bare wood. And then let that cure probably overnight. Once that's put to the side on that nice half tidy bench over there, we're going to glue on the ailerons, get them hinged on properly, and again let them cure overnight. And then tomorrow we'll come back and we will see about connecting up the elevators, the rudder and ailerons, and then after that it'll be connecting up or fitting the engine, getting that all connected up, throttle servo in. We're pretty close on that.
I can't think what else we need to do.
It's going to be daft things then, like fitting the cowl, check and balance, and the last thing we're going to be doing is check and balance and getting the battery mounted in place. So, as I said, at the moment, the battery, I don't know how well you'll be able to see, the battery's just down in there, which we'll take out in a moment. That's roughly where it's going to sit for balance, which is pretty good. Gives us a lot of room to manoeuvre with it. So yeah, we're going to crack on and get things glued in. So there we are for today on this video, or this segment should I say. Elevators and rudder hinges are glued in, aileron hinges are glued in, and the front of the model is epoxied. Next things we're going to have to do is start getting, for example, the closed loop made up for the rudder, push rods for the elevators, and push rods for the ailerons, and then see about getting the engines in. But while that's going off, we're going to do some more on the stomp, but you'll see that in a different video. So this might be the end of this video, I don't know yet. There might be some more coming. Right, so again, I'm not quite sure where I am with the footage of this particular model. As I say, I've got 2 going on at the same time. The last bit we did on this yesterday was getting the control surfaces all glued in, which they are. The ailerons are glued in as well. One of the next things we've got to do is start looking at connecting things up with horns and push rods and closed loop and stuff like that. But one of the things I do want to do is see about getting the engine on. To do that, we've got to figure out where the throttle servo is going to go, because once the engine's on, we can't take the bow cable out easily. I'm thinking I want to have the throttle behind the centre of gravity, or throttle servo, just so that we can then have the battery wherever. That little bit of weight is going to help us, having it behind the CFG. I was thinking about having the throttle servo in here, but actually having somewhere for it to mount to is going to be awkward, and still have it accessible, and still be able to get the tank in and out. So what we might well do is actually have it mounted that sort of location, but going in through the hatch underneath, because the hatch is there. So we'll try and figure that out and have you on time lapse while we're trying to figure it out, and come back to you once we figure it out. servo installation is done, and we're kind of happy with it.
Yeah.
But there's a few things we've got to now check and change and try and modify. So I don't know how well you'll be able to see. I'll show you in there. Throttle servo's in there, mounted to the side, and the Bowden cable comes through. This end I'm happy with just now, but it's actually that end, the actual, this bit here, there's so much slack in it. Where are we? I don't know if you can see it. There's so much slack there. So if I move the throttle stick, we're getting to about quarter stick before it actually does anything. I'll zoom you in, see if you can see where the slack is. The slack's on that disc. So we need to try and, we're going to take that apart and see if we can get some slack out of it. Because that won't give us very good throttle response like that. So we'll see what we can do. Probably seen from that time lapse we've had a bit of faffing with this, but we have now got a working throttle linkage that does exactly what we want of it. Basically we had a few issues. One, the original disc here had too much slop on its bearing point mount thing, so we've redone that, and the spacing actually at the carb end, the ball link at the carb end was too tight, so that was just catching and binding. So we spaced that out, and now it all works perfectly. So at this end, there's one more little thing to do, which will be changing this wire out, and then the actual mounting the engine and throttle linkage is done, I think.
Yeah.
The only thing we need to do after that is get the other mounting bolt in, which we were talking about with the T-nut on the back.
Yeah, yeah.
And get the secondary earthing wire through for the engine kill. And once that's all through, we can then plumb it and work our way this way, I think.
Yeah.
Might as well get all the front end done first.
There isn't much else to do on it from here forward.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm getting at. So if we can do that, we're going to go and have a bit of lunch just now, and then we'll carry on after lunch. But yeah, there isn't huge amounts to do. If we can get that done, great, we're sorted. So I'll come back to you in a bit.
We've just run the engine for the first time in the model, but we completely forgot to film it, so that's what we're going to do now. it's run, happy with it, it's going well. It's going to need a bit of tweaking, but we expected that. So yeah, we need to go do the rest of it now.
Okay, so as you hopefully saw there in that bit of footage, the engine has been run up now. That's still warm.
Yeah.
We're just giving it a check over at the front. It all looks good. The tank and everything all still secure. Everything that should be in its place is in its place still. Next thing we're going to start looking at is connecting up the elevators to the servos and the rudder to its servo. Because of the orientation of the servos, I can't run them on a Y lead. They've got to be on separate channels because one's got to go opposite direction to the other. So the first thing we're going to do now is get the transmitter set up for twin elevator servos, and then get the servos plugged in and make sure they're all doing what they're meant to be doing. Get the push rods made up, get the horns on, everything else that's good with that. And then we'll probably do the rudder, ailerons, which we've already started on by figuring out what horns and arms and things we're going to use. And then the last bit really will be getting it all connected up so it all waggles in the right direction on the transmitter, but getting the battery in, getting the switch in, and checking the CG with the cowl.
And getting the chair in.
Yeah, it can fly without the chair if need be.
Yeah.
So we're going to press on. Right, so we've had a lot of faffing around, haven't we?
Yeah.
We now have two working elevators. I have actually just hidden the servos in there. I was going to show that anyway. So in there we've got the two elevator servos. We've had to put a slight bend in the push rod because again the ball link was fouling on the servo arm, but again nothing major. And we've brought them out the sides. They're crossed over as per designed. I'm not overly happy with what we've had to do here, but it's not the end of the world. And then we've got ball links onto metal horns on the elevators. They both work. We've got plenty of travel, probably 45 degrees each way if we need it, which would be more than enough for making this thing stall and snap and spin and whatever. Ewan's just found a little bit of covering which I forgot to tack down fully, so he's going to get on with that. And then we're going to turn it over and try and do the rudder. Right, I can't remember if we left with having elevators working or not on the last bit.
Yeah,
but,
we did.
Okay, so we've now got elevators working, and we've now got a rudder that works. That's all done on closed loop. We might have to tighten these up a little bit as they bed in, like the ends and whatnot bending round, but that's fine. So everything now is good. The end points are set, sub trims are set.
Need to go over throttle because takeover's really high. I've just seen it on the transmitter.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's where I left it.
Yeah, but I thought you'd want to adjust it there.
No, that'd be fine. So the fuselage is just about done. What else have we got to do to the fuselage?
Battery box in.
Oh yeah, where is your battery box?
Upstairs in the airing cupboard.
Okay. So Ewan's made a battery box for this model. Light ply and then fiberglassed it. It's in the airing cupboard, curing quicker. So really, now our focus has got to move to the wings and get the ailerons done. This is so tantalisingly close, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
We also worked out that we're only just going to have enough channels because we've got twin aileron servos, so that's 2 channels for the ailerons. We've got to have 2 channels for the elevators because of their orientation. And we've got the toe release to fit in, so that will be good. Oh, we've got to do the cowling as well, but that's going to be a last thing to do. So yeah, we're going to move on to the wings now. Well, I feel as I've neglected the video a little bit in the, in the desire to get the model finished. Front end is done. Back end is done. Elevator's rudder. Cowling's now on, cut, trimmed, clear everything. And given that this morning it is now currently not raining, we just had the model outside to try and do a final check of balance. The battery that's currently in this battery box has now got to come out of the battery box, and it's got to sit, I don't know how well you'll be able to see, just there. So it's basically, we slid it in like that, and that's where it bounces. So I've got to make a mount in there to be able to strap the battery to. We've also noticed that the wing retention hooks foul on the side of the fuselage, so we're just going to move them so we don't have to cut anything out the side of the fuselage. And then it'll be checking it again. We're going to have to get everything connected up. We have to get the receivers plumbed into place. Plumbed into place?
Put into place.
Put into place. I'm still half asleep. Secured into place. Make sure everything's connected up. Make sure the wiring's tidy. Make sure everything works. And then we'll probably put it outside again. Fully rig it. Check everything again. Possibly even run it quickly.
Yep.
And then we can say, let's charge it and go and fly it. And then we can work on something else.
Yeah.
So that's the plan for just now. Well guys, we did record an outro to this video at the flying field, so this is now in the future from that, but the audio quality was so crap we couldn't use it, so we're doing it now. So, Farmhand, no, Farmyard, Farmyard, I will one day get the name right, Farmyard, it's done, it's finished, it's all rigged up. We've had a few issues with the front end. We couldn't get the engine to tune right. It would run fine with the cowl off. Put the cowl on and it was erratic all over the place, as if the bottom end was wrong.
Yeah.
Rich or lean or something. It just wouldn't throttle. Yeah, it just wouldn't throttle correctly. And was it me or you noticed it?
Yeah.
You had noticed that looking through the hole in the side of the carb, you could see the fuel line was pinched between the carb and the cowl. So we've taken a big hole out the cowl now for the fuel line, so it's a straight affair into the carb, and it runs perfectly. What else did we have to do? We tightened up the closed loops on the rudder because they bedded in a little bit, settled in. We've now got, it doesn't really make sense, but there's a cockpit floor here for a certain pilot to go in. But yeah, it's ready for flying.
Yeah. So
hopefully you'll see in the next video in this series a test flight of this aeroplane. I will let you into a secret, it's not actually the test flight because I don't film test flights purposely, but it was the second flight, wasn't it?
No, it's test flight, yeah. Filmed.
Of this?
Yeah.
Did I?
Yeah. You do film test flights.
I didn't film the test flight.
Yeah,
did
you
I?
did. Yeah, I filmed the second flight.
I filmed a flight of this, which you'll see in another video coming up. But moving forwards from that, if you're enjoying this sort of content, building models like this, give us a thumbs up. If you're not already, consider subscribing to the channel, it's all greatly appreciated. And until the next video, from myself and Ewan, here in the workshop, we'll see you next time.
Bye.